Ladies and gentlemen, may I present, for your intellectual and philosophical pleasure,
Chad Chili. You've got questions, I've got fats. So my ketogenic diet videos have gotten a lot of questions about where should I be getting this fat from? And that's a really good question, actually, because not all fats are created equal. And, you know, one of the things we need to consider is we need to eat good quality fats. It's not enough just to eat more fat, and certainly you don't want trans fat. You shouldn't be going out and buying yourself, oh yeah, I'm just going to get a can of Crisco. I'm going to eat that shit with a spoon. I eat that shit with a spoon is one of my things that I like to tell my, I had co-workers at Whole Foods when I worked in the whole body department, and people would ask me questions like, hey, have you ever tried this? And I didn't care what the customer asked. I really, it was kind of just my inside joke, but my coworker all understood it. But anytime a customer would ask me about a product, I would just immediately say to them, oh, it's delicious, I eat that with a spoon. And I don't care what it was. People could ask me about the ketchup. I mean, I'd be like, oh yeah, that ketchup's fantastic, I eat that with a spoon. So today I'm going to talk about some fats that I actually do eat with a spoon. So without any further ado, where should you be getting your fats from if you're going to be following a ketogenic diet? Or if you just want to have better fat in your diet, because we actually all need fat in our diets. I've seen a lot of people do these bizarre diets where they're like, oh, well, you know, I eat 150 grams of protein a day, and I eat like 500 grams of carbohydrates, and I only have like 30 grams of fat. It's like, your hormonal function plummets. You got to get the fat in, especially saturated fat, which has been villainized for way too long. The real problem with saturated fat is just that if you eat it with carbohydrates at the same time, the insulin spike, that's the magic there. The insulin spike is the problem, and that's why I really am not a person that pitches ketogenic diets. It's a diet. Have I done it? Yes, I've done a ketogenic diet before. Does it have a place? Yes, it does. I think it's probably going to be the cure for cancer someday. If we could figure out how to take ketogenic diets and combine it with other cures, it's going to cure cancer. I think hyperbaric oxygen therapy and stuff like that is definitely going to be tied in with that. There's a ton of research. People really should be paying more attention to ketogenic diets and just even low carb in general. But I understand that for athletes, you gotta have some carbs in there because why? Because the shit's like rocket fuel. I mean, it's like putting an octane booster in your tank. Sure, yeah, you can run on fat. I don't want to tell anyone you can't run on fat. But if you want to put out the highest performance possible, you may want to put some carbohydrates into your diet. Your call. In any case, putting some fat in your diet, though, is definitely going to be a benefit to you. And I pulled out all the stops for you guys today, so I got tons of props. I'm going to try to keep this video at least as short as I possibly can, but I'm not making any promises. First off, MCT oil. This stuff is the good stuff. It's 100% pure, Now Foods MCT oil, medium chain triglyceride. This is what our body likes to burn, and in fact our body almost uses this like a carbohydrate. Now the reason why our body burns it so quickly is, if you remember from my earlier videos, the body likes to burn fat that isn't bonded. So because it's not bound to albumin, which is something that bonds to longer chain triglycerides, our body loves to burn medium chain triglycerides. It burns very, very quickly. It's rapidly converted into ketones. In fact, even if you eat carbohydrates, if you take a swig of this, you will start producing ketones. Pretty cool, huh? Moving forward, from MCTs, I like to use butter, and my favorite butter is Kerrygold. And it's closely followed by this guy here, which I just call s'more. I have no idea how to pronounce that. It's from Iceland, which I'm guessing the language is Icelandic. This is delicious. And I will actually eat Kerrygold and s'more butter, literally just eating the butter. I mean, it's that good that there are times where I'm like, man, piece of butter. I just want a chunk of butter, and I'll take a knife, hack off like 2 tablespoons worth, and just literally just eat the butter. It's that good tasting. Organic Valley periodically makes a grass-fed butter. I think it's available from like May to June. It's not available for very, very long at all. But it's even though it's salted, it's really lightly salted, and it's a really good butter. I'll eat that sometimes. Sometimes I make butter tea. Butter tea is fantastic as well. It's kind of something I picked up from having an Indian coworker. Well, actually, it was my boss. And one time he just was like, "You should try butter tea," and I was like, "Butter tea? What the hell is that?" I mean, I thought it was something from like a Beatles song, you know, that one with the butter pie. And you know, the guy says the butter wouldn't melt, so I put it in the pie, right? And I thought he was just jacking me around. He's like, "Oh yeah, you should try some butter tea." I had butter tea. It was absolutely fantastic. So if you ever have a chance to have real, authentic Indian-made butter tea, definitely don't pass that up. Also, I like this here. This is Cacao Power is what it's called. It's made by Navitas. It is cocoa butter, I believe. Yeah, raw cacao butter. Cacao butter, not cocoa butter. Cacao butter. This stuff is delicious, especially if you need a chocolate fix. You can always just hack a piece off. There is 0 carbohydrates, 0 protein, and 14 grams of fat, 8 of those being saturated fat, which again has been villainized way too much. Before you even comment on, "Oh, saturated fat's bad for you," do your research. Do your research. Check out Anthony Colpo, absolutely brilliant. Kiefer, D.H. Kiefer, John Kiefer. He wrote the books Carb Night and Carb Backloading. There's tons of other people. Chris Kresser, Rob Wolf. Dig in. Those guys really know their shit. Saturated fat is not the problem. Mark Sisson, Mark's Daily Apple. Saturated fat has way too much BS around it from bad research studies. The reality of it is that if you're eating saturated fat, it's hormonally neutral, it's readily used for energy. Your body does not really want to store saturated fat. Actually, your body likes to store monounsaturated fat. If you check out the research, our body fat's made up of monounsaturated fatty acids. Moving forward, just because I don't like to leave anyone hanging with bad information, saturated fat's not bad for you. Coconut oil. Now this is the regular. This is the refined, so this is good for cooking because once it's refined, you can get it up to a much higher point before it has a smoke point, doesn't oxidize. And this one is delicious just for eating with a spoon. This is the Ziggy Marley Cocoa Mon coconut oil, and this is the orange almond flavor. There's like a ginger one, and I think there's a curry one as well. They're good enough you can just eat them with a spoon. I do. What else I like for cooking, and also sometimes I just grab a tablespoon of this. This is Nature's Way liquid coconut. And this has 93% MCT. So the way they make it, so normal coconut oil is actually solid at room temperature. I think it turns into a liquid somewhere around 76, 78 degrees-ish. Sometimes if your house gets really hot or you leave this in your car, it'll turn into liquid really fast. Liquid coconut oil, the way they keep it a liquid is by increasing the MCTs, which is why MCT oil is liquid. Palm oil, real quickly, just to touch on that. I'm not really a fan of it, at least not in large quantities, but you know what? I do think that a teaspoon to a tablespoon a day is a good way to get vitamin E into your diet, and I don't really believe the research out there saying that vitamin E is bad for you, because the people who are taking a supplement and it doesn't have all the tocopherols and tocotrienols in it. I think if you get a complete source of vitamin E, you're getting it from a food source. I think that that's much better. In fact, I think everything's better from a food source. You know, I use the MCT oil. That is a supplement. I'll use it sometimes just because it's just convenient. I mean, it's not always convenient to have a meal. So, like I said, supplements, they're for convenience. Try to get your stuff from Whole Foods if you possibly can. Coconut butter. This one's made by Artisana. This one is also, again, delicious. It has some carbohydrates in it, not a big deal. They're pretty low. 5 grams of the 7 is dietary fiber, and then on top of that, when you consider the fact that you're combining it with fat, it slows down that glycemic response. You're not going to have a big insulin spike. Over here, I have Let's Do Organic Creamed Coconut. It's basically the same thing as raw coconut butter. I don't want to pretend like it's something different, because it really isn't. The only difference is that this stuff comes in a pack, and so it's solid, it's hard. If you warm it up a little bit though, you can just tear it open and just literally like suck it out of the pack the way you might with like an energy gel. This stuff is really convenient. I climbed Seneca Rock a few years ago in West Virginia. Things like coconut butter and things like that, if you get it in packets, can be really convenient for you because it enables you to keep yourself fueled, but at the same time you're not carrying around like massive amounts of food. Still heading forward with this here. More saturated fat, ghee. This is clarified butter. This stuff's just delicious. I eat this with a spoon sometimes, especially this brand here. This Purity Farms is really, really good tasting ghee. My personal favorite, my dog's personal favorite, and as far as I know, everyone who has a soul, rendered duck fat. This stuff is fantastic. Oh my god. I like to cook eggs in it. The flavor is just, you have to try it. I can't even put it into words. It's that good. Rendered duck fat. This stuff is awesome. I also like tallow. Unfortunately, I don't have a jar of that for you at the moment. Moving forward from that, another good source, which I almost forgot, is coconut milk. Buy the canned stuff. The stuff inside the box, the cardboard box, that stuff is shit. That stuff is garbage. Don't even. Buy the can or don't. And don't do it at all if you're not going to buy the can. Ideally, you could find it in a can that's BPA-free lining. But you know what? You're not going to be using this stuff all the time. At least I hope you wouldn't. But this stuff is awesome. If you throw it in like a protein shake or something like that, you grab some like whey protein isolate, throw a scoop of that in, and then pour a can of this in. Delicious, especially if it's chocolate. Other fats I like. You know this had become olive oil. I'll just drink a tablespoon of it sometimes. Sometimes I even pour myself a shot glass. Just give myself an ounce of olive oil. The catch is that this guy here is monounsaturated fat. You do not want to consume monounsaturated fat with carbohydrates, which is why I think it's so funny that people pour olive oil on their pasta. You're just asking for problems there. Your body's going to want to store all that monounsaturated fat. So that's not really a great choice if you're going to have it with something else, but I do like olive oil. There's a ton of health benefits from it. It's good for your skin, good for your hair. Avocado oil. This one's another awesome one. This one is another great source of monounsaturated fat. You've got 10 grams of monounsaturated fat for every 14 grams of fat. This stuff is delicious. I think it tastes fantastic. And sometimes I'll just have a tablespoon of that. And then finally, my last fun fat for you is macadamia nuts. Again, this is a lot of monounsaturated fat in there. I try to avoid polyunsaturated fatty acids, and if you go ahead and do your research, and I always encourage you, don't take my word for anything. You should always check out the research. Polyunsaturated fatty acids probably are not good for you. In fact, they're probably worse than saturated fats. So for all you guys out there going, oh, saturated fat's bad, do your research. Macadamia nuts, these are awesome again. Sometimes I'll eat macadamia nuts, you know, like when I'm hiking or climbing or doing some physical activity where I can't, you know, necessarily have like a real meal. They're convenient, and you know, they get the job done. So that's what I got for you guys today. You know, if you have more questions about fats, I always like talking about them. So, but that's all I got for you guys today.
What's the matter with you people? I was joking! Don't you know a joke when you hear one?